You're listening to the Appleton REIA podcast, a podcast dedicated to understanding the latest tips, tricks, and techniques to be successful in today's market of real estate investing. Appleton REIA podcast. Get ready. Here's the next episode. Hey, everybody. What's going on? Dan Alborn, Jacci Conco, Appleton REIA podcast. Welcome back, people.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, we're halfway through this 2021, and we are rocking and rolling, and we're here with another podcast. Really, the whole point of this, guys, is to bring you knowledge that sometimes isn't always necessarily real estate specific, but things that you can use in your personal life and in your business to help you grow and get more fulfillment out of life, because really that's what, at a core, why we're even in real estate, right? It's about creating the life that we want. And if anyone who's been on these podcasts before, Jacci, we know about the Life in Air thing. We can talk about that. This isn't Life in Air per se, but today we're going to talk about some mindset stuff.
It's kind of funny because as you're talking just now, I'm thinking of, do you remember that old song, like when we were kids, the things that make you go, So it's not always just nuggets of knowledge.
No.
Sometimes it's just the things that make you think, right? And think and grow.
Well, you know, it's interesting, and I can say this, and Jacci, I would agree, I think you would agree with me, is that, you know, we do some coaching, and I'd say that the people that can get their mind right have the best success.
In all parts of life.
And yeah, not just business, real estate, but personal. They're able to really push through that. And sometimes you have to kind of get rid of some of the trash that's in your brain. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's really the statement we hear a lot, whether we're talking to just people at the club, people in our lives, whatever. It's like, should I?
Yeah. The
shoulds. The case of the shoulds.
The shoulds. It's so funny because whenever I talk to any of my students and I ask them, you know, anything about life, and they say, oh, well, I should lose 20 pounds. Right. I should, you know, work out more. I should eat better. You know, those are all health related. And those seem to be the big things, right? Or I should work more hours, or I should really go do this, or I should really start a new marketing program. And I'm like, first of all, whenever I hear someone tell me, when I ask them what they want or what does their vision look like, and they start saying anything that ends after I should go, I should be, I should do. Right. Whenever somebody uses the word should, it really tells me that it's somebody else's vision for them. Wow. Because otherwise you'd say, I am, or I will, or I want, or I need. You wouldn't say I should. Whenever you say I should, that means somebody else is putting it on you, and I say you need to stop shoulding all over yourself. That is so powerful. I mean, if you just heard what Jacci said, I think if you really reflect upon that, because it's so common in the lexicon of everyone's world today, everyone says those shoulds. I think we've all fallen prey to it, but it comes down to whose dream are you chasing, right? Yeah. When you're saying that, is that truly your vision? More than likely, you said it's not. I mean, really not usually, right? Because if you say I should, you're not even bought in yourself. 100%. That's something you're going to go do. Right. I mean, how bought in are you on actually making it happen or making it a goal? You could say, well, I should make a goal too. That's not a goal you're going to follow up with because there's no ambition behind it. I should. You're not. That's what a wimpy word. It is. But I think we say it to sometimes appease other people. You're right. Because we then start living the life that others want for us, you know, and sometimes our family members, love them to death, can be the worst proponents of this because they're so accustomed to live a certain way. Yeah. And when you start doing something differently, well, I should be like this, or I should be like that individual, or you have some image in your brain that's been trained to think that you need to be this person, when the reality is it's not at the core of what drives you and what fulfills you. Because it could just be the world giving you that, 100%. And that's where the shoulds come from a lot. But it could be a spouse or children or parents or whatever. But you have to be careful not to let them dump their should on you. Right. And that's, you know, it's funny because if you ask people, and I have done this before, like they'll say, oh, you know, ask them what type of level of success they want to have. Well, I want to be a millionaire. You know, I want to be a millionaire. Ask them why. Why do you want to be a millionaire? Most people have no answer for you. They don't know why. It's because the world says that means you're successful. Right. But how do you define success? Because success means, and this sounds so cliche, but success means something different to each person. The actual definition of success is what you make it. You know, and it backs it back up to what is the vision you have for your ideal life. If you have a vision to do all kinds of travel and philanthropy and stuff like that, well, you're going to need more finances than somebody who buys a tiny house on a beach and they just love the beach and they don't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like, they don't need that much. Maybe they grow their own food. Now they don't even have a huge grocery bill,
Absolutely.
So success and financial success means something totally different depending on that person's vision for their ideal life.
Right. And the other thing I think that comes into play here too is sometimes we have fears in our life that prohibit us from taking action. I just recently, for some of our students, just posted a video about a book I've been listening to. It's called Fear is Fuel. And really, it's about this guy who had these unbelievable, they're almost irrational fears, Jackie.
Sure, and that's when you need
right,
to overcome
he's a
them.
business guy today, but he was afraid of flying. And he had to overcome this fear, and even so much that he faced the fear that he now has a private pilot's license, scared out of his wits to even get it, but now he appreciates the beauty and the splendor. And he's like, I've made millions of dollars, and I've had these unbelievable business successes, but it wasn't until I was actually in a plane, could see the splendor that was flying, and more importantly, the overcoming that fear, because the fear had gotten so bad that he was living this destructive life of drugs and alcohol and had this terminal disease that almost took his life.
Wow.
And it was created based upon the fear that he had in his life and the worry.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. He made himself sick. And the
Thoughts are
outside, he looked
things.
healthy. He went to the gym.
Yep.
He went and partied all night. Drank, drugs, everything. Went to the gym in the morning because that's how he felt good about himself. Like, I'm gonna wear off the alcohol. But then he had this terminal thing that happened to him that he really had to get his life right. And that's when he finally realized, I have to stop allowing fear to dictate my decisions and facing it. And if there are those irrational fears that can be affecting your life, affecting your business, you have to kind of address it and figure out, how can I overcome these fears to allow me to be successful?
Yeah, like, I have a fear of birds. It doesn't
Right.
affect my life. But both you and I, no
Right.
one will believe this,
Yes.
but you and I both had
Absolutely.
a fear of public speaking.
100%.
But that was the only way for us to move forward in what our
Yes.
ideal visions for our life and our businesses,
Absolutely.
right? And so you and I both overcame that by just forcing ourselves to do
Absolutely.
it. And I don't know about you, but I threw up
Yeah.
after I was finished
Right.
speaking the first time, and the second time
Right.
I threw up before I started
Yeah.
because I knew what was coming. But
Sure.
eventually I didn't throw up anymore, and I
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
for me, it was interesting because I actually took a public speaking course. I don't know if I had to take it in high school or whatever, dreading it. And I, at the time, worked at a pizza place, and they had the soda pitchers. And I realized if you talked into the soda pitcher, it sounded like you had a radio voice, which I guess some people would say I have one anyway.
Yep.
Nonetheless, so I actually, this was the hoot, and I got an A+ on this speech. I actually went up there and did something radio related, but then I brought that same pitcher from the
work.
restaurant and actually got him in front of the room and talked like a radio guy. And everyone's like, dude, that was so awesome. And I just did it because that was my crutch. And I needed that to be my confidence to get out. And then I realized that, wow, people thought I was good at public speaking. And maybe that was the bug that bit me, that I'm like, I can do this. I am good at this. And then that's what drove me to overcome my fear.
And then you became a radio
And then I
host.
got into real radio, right? And then, anyone knows my story knows a little of my background.
so
But
fun.
yeah, but in your case and mine both, we had to actually understand that this fear would prohibit us from being successful.
From our version of
Our
success.
vision, right, absolutely,
And our vision
100%,
for what
100%.
we both really wanted to do and how
Correct.
we wanted to move through our life and
Yes.
our business. I
Yep.
mean, I know I absolutely
Right.
wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my original
Absolutely.
ability to get up and
For
speak
sure.
in front of a group, because I needed that
Right.
for how I launched myself back
Absolutely, and you then learned how to have good communication skills, right? Which is so important in real estate 101
Yeah.
to know that. But in life, I mean, too often today, because of social media and being stuck behind a screen, the form of communication is lost.
Yeah.
And there's some element of just bringing that back, I think, is important. But what it comes down to is, once you know those fears, you then have to almost kind of work through rewiring the way that you process things.
You got to break the pattern.
Yes, absolutely.
It's funny because even when somebody says, I'm so fat, or why am I so fat? I always say be careful the questions you
Right.
ask yourself, because you're telling your brain to answer it. So when you say, why am I so stupid, or why
Yeah.
am I so fat, or, whatever, that's the wrong question.
Right.
How can I lose weight might be a more quality
Sure.
question.
Yeah.
But when people say things like, I'm so fat, or I'm so old, or I'm so stupid, it's like, I will literally make them say, cancel.
Yeah.
Like, to break the pattern,
Yeah.
like, just stop it and then replace it with a more positive,
Yeah.
statement.
Right.
But literally, I have students that I make say cancel out loud. Or like they'll be on the phone with me and they'll say something and they know I'm going to say it. So they'll just say it themselves. Cancel. Let me start over.
Right.
But you got to break that pattern, whatever it is.
And words are so powerful.
Oh,
I mean, you get in, and that's what the whole thing with the shoulds, right?
Yep.
It's just you're just living in this milquetoast type of life. It's like there's no empowerment behind that. There's nothing to it. So if you can retrain those patterns with new words of what I am going to do and I can do, it sounds like foo-foo, but I'm telling you, that has had huge impact on my life of just rewiring the way that you think and the way you process information. And then ultimately, you'll start reacting different when situations come your way. You don't become a victim. You now see this as an opportunity to overcome it versus like, woe is me, when bad things happen.
It's especially hard for me right now to get my oldest daughter to believe that this is true.
Sure.
And so if you're out there and you're hearing this and you're like, that's foo-foo, it doesn't matter what I say, it does. Your brain, 100%. Your subconscious hears everything that you say and everything you think. So you got it double bad if you're not thinking the right things. It's called focus, right? I mean, whatever you're focusing on, good or bad, it's going to come. The book Think and Grow Rich, Chapter 1, Thoughts Are Things. And it's no lie.
Absolutely.
It's what are your thoughts? What are your statements?
Yeah.
How do you think? If you say, I can't afford that, or I'm broke, like those are really strong statements. A better thing instead of I can't afford that would be, how can I afford that? Let your brain go to work on something you actually want the results of, Instead of saying I'm broke, just say, some other statement like I can't buy that right now or something like that, but I'm broke is a really bad way to go. Or I'm working on, getting more money every day, just change if you said something negative, just say something, even if it's kooky, like I'm getting more money every day is kooky to say, but you're saying it to yourself. And that focus and those words and those thoughts, they make all the difference. They change everything, and they will help you overcome those fears.
Absolutely. And it comes down to what you mentioned earlier, Jackie, was just, what is that vision for your life? And taking it a step further, have you taken time, some self-reflection time to actually do that? Just recently, I had a 2-day training out in Ohio, and I chose to drive. And it was 7+ hours. Some people think like that's crazy. You could fly and be there in, probably 6.5 by the time you're in and out of airports, right? So am I really the crazy one? But nonetheless, I love doing that because it's time by myself.
Yeah.
It's time in a vehicle, and driving is mind-numbing because it's just something you do automatically, even in traffic, barring being through big cities. Most time it's just straight highway, and you can really think. And I do some of my best thinking by myself, and it's really impactful to understand the value of just analyzing where you're at in life, where you want to be, and taking inventory and putting a plan together, writing down those things versus just becoming fleeting moments, be like, what did I think about 30 minutes ago? Or making a voice memo or something like that. But if you have that plan, you then can start putting positive actions behind those things to break the pattern, right?
Right. Yeah. You start with the vision for what do you really want. Then you can make the plan, and then you can break it down into waypoints and goals and like action items.
Absolutely.
And if some of those things are being stopped by fear, figure out how to break that pattern and move forward. Yeah. And always be aware of what you're taking in that isn't from you.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If it's someone else, whether it's a friend or family member or a mentor that you maybe should not be following, just take inventory of who you're allowing to speak to your subconscious.
Absolutely. And that could be, friends, like Jackie was talking about, could be family. Man, it could even be like social media. Like, who are you watching on, like, whether a YouTube junkie or if you're getting into some of the TikToks and things like that. I mean, a lot of that stuff, if you're following just real negative people, even if it's self-deprecating and it's comedic, there's a time and place for some of that stuff. But if you really, that's your enjoyment, more than likely that's going to be things that are going to be ingrained into who you are. So change those patterns, right? Change what you're ingesting. Are you finding some motivational or positive things, whether it be a Kindle or an Audible book or something that you can actually put in your life that can really impact you positively? That is huge. That is absolutely huge.
And even just write down to what your mother told you when you were a kid. Right?
Yeah.
Careful who you hang around.
Yeah.
Right? It really is true. If the crowd you're with is going in the direction you want to go in and they challenge you in the areas where you need to be challenged, that's that's where
you need
should
that.
be. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
the Bible says it's ironing sharpening iron,
yep.
and that's true even in the world today. I mean, you put yourself around other people that are doing it that can push you, right?
Yeah.
In a positive, not a destructive way, but in a positive way. You know, why do people use, if they're going to work out, they get a workout coach, right? They're going to push you to, they know by doing these activities, it's going to see the results that you told them that you want. You know, so it's the same thing in your own life. You know, do you have someone who's there to mentor and coach you? I mean, that's an option there too, you know? So it's finding people that you can put in your life that can positively impact you for the better you of whatever that definition of success is that we talked about.
Well, and they cheer for your success, and they pick
Right.
you up when a failure hits. Because
Right.
the only way to truly get to success is to fail your way forward.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that. You don't just...
Absolutely.
other than a little bit of luck here and there and
Oh, my word.
succeeding on the first try, I mean, for the most part, failure has to be a part of a successful life.
That is going to be a future podcast. We'll talk about failing forward and talking about some of our failures. Could even be a meeting at the old club there, Jackie. So maybe we're stumbling across something
And it's
here.
funny because you're talking about social media, and, you know, that's all perception.
Oh,
Because you'll
100%.
see, like, all this amazing stuff, and what
Absolutely.
you're not seeing is, sometimes you're not seeing the truth,
Sure.
but other times you're just not seeing the failures and the struggle that came to the true success
Correct.
that someone's
100%.
showing, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so much just deprecation in,
Yep.
in looking at that stuff and
Yeah.
comparing yourself without realizing what the struggle
Yeah.
was or how many years it took them to get whatever that result
Yeah.
is, if you're following some sort of, you know, big personality or something. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, I guess in the long and short of this, guys, is if you're chasing other people's dreams and have a case of the shoulds, I think, Jack, you're saying stop what?
Stop shoulding all over
Yeah,
yourself.
stop shoulding all over yourself. If you do some of these things, guys, these shoulds will change. The words that you use will change. Your actions then will be aligned with what that vision is of who you want to be.
For sure.
And that's the big thing. You kind of have to get the brain set right in order to even take that first step in the right direction. Which, case in point, actually leads us to this month's REIA meeting. Phenomenal location. If you've not been to the new location in Appleton,
So good.
yeah, the
We
DoubleTree,
love it there.
right off of College and Nicolay, I think it is.
Yeah, right off 41.
Yeah, right off
Sure.
41. You can go to AppletonREIA.com if you want to, of course, get more information there. But I'm excited about this upcoming meeting because you're going to get a chance to network, really, Jackie, with local people that have that right mindset, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've got some experts to share networking with, as well as just your fellow peers in the
Yeah.
marketplace. You know, people who've had successes, people who are willing to share their failures, and people who will stand alongside you in what your definition of success
Yeah,
is.
that's
you know,
awesome.
whether it is becoming the next millionaire or just the next person who makes more than you make at work and can
Right.
quit your job.
Oh, absolutely.
Whatever.
Yeah, control your life, right? So if you
Yeah.
want to know more, go to AppletonREIA.com. If you're listening to this, never visited, guess what? The first meeting is on us. You can check it out for free and really see the value of the club. And then I'd highly recommend becoming a member because not only do you get to have the chance to network, you save on paying each time coming to the door, but the discounts and the benefits of being a member locally and nationally with vendors, you can save a ton of money in your real estate investment business just on that alone. So hopefully we'll see you there. It is the third Tuesday of every month, so you can just mark it on your calendar. It's DoubleTree in Appleton. All the information of upcoming speakers and what's going on, AppletonREIA.com. And at the end of the day, stop shoulding on yourself. All right?
Do that.
We gave you some tips and techniques to stop doing that. So until we talk next time, guys, have yourself a good one. You've been listening to the Appleton REIA Podcast. Have a good one. See ya. You've been listening to the Appleton REIA Podcast. For more information and other episodes, visit us at AppletonREIA.com.